Talk about provisioning and specifically about provisioning Teams-related content. First of all, as a brief introduction, I want to let all of you know that since a few months ago, we introduced, I think almost already a year ago, we introduced the capability to provision not only templates for a specific target set collection, like we did in the past, but we also allow through the provisioning engine of PnP to provision what we call tenant templates. And a tenant template is a template which includes not only the asset and the template for one specific set collection, but a hierarchy or a sequence, it's like as we call it, a sequence of set collections plus eventually many more objects and resources in the whole Microsoft 365 ecosystem. In fact, with, for example, with the latest release of the provisioning schema, which is the one of February 2020, we provide the capability to provision sequences of set collections, as I was telling you. And for example, in a sequence, you can create a hierarchy of sites and set collections with different set collection types. You can create communication sites. You can create team sites with no groups as sub-webs of a site collection that you are creating. You can provision team sites with or without a backing team in Microsoft Teams. And as such, you can easily create in one shot a site collection and a Microsoft team backing that site collection, as well as you can eventually create a site collection with a root site of type team site no group. So a modern team site, but without the backing Microsoft 365 group. Moreover, aside from the sequence, we have some other sections like the Teams section, which we will dig into in this demo, the Azure Active Directory section through which you can create users in Active Directory, so that if your template is a template to create a demo environment, you can easily also create the user that you want to use for the demo, for example. The Drive section through which you can work against OneDrive for Business, and you can upload content in OneDrive for Business for specific target users. And so there is quite a lot of stuff that you can use to provision content, not only at site collection level, but at tenant level. And that's why we started talking about tenant level templates and not only site collection level templates. And that's also why we have, from a PowerShell point of view, a new command-line that you can use to do the provisioning of a tenant level template. So let me switch to Visual Studio Code and let me show you some sample templates that I created and the corresponding PowerShell script that you can use to do the actual provisioning of those tenant level templates. Let's start with the very first demo. We will see three different solutions. This one is a provisioning tenant level template through which I do the provisioning of a team in Microsoft Teams. As you can see, I have the provisioning root element, and I have a couple of input arguments just to define the title and the alias of my team when I will create it. Moreover, in the Teams section of my template, I define one team. So you can see I have a bunch of properties to declare what is the display name, the description, what will be the visibility of my team, whether it will be a public or a private team. If I want to archive an already existing team, I can use the archived equal true attributes to the team, and I can define the nickname of the team that will be created. And actually here I'm using the input parameter for the alias that I get when I execute my provisioning. Then inside the team element, I can configure all of the settings that usually we can configure using the UI of Microsoft Teams. But right now we want to do an automated provisioning of a team. So I can configure the fan settings, which are my favorites, the guest settings, the member settings, and the messaging settings, with all of the options that we have in the UI. And if you're wondering what we do under the cover, here we use Microsoft Graph under the cover in the provisioning engine, and that's why you can eventually recognize a kind of a mapping between the properties that you have in the Microsoft Graph online documentation and what we have in this schema. Moreover, you can have a security section, which is commented out in this sample, because right now this example, this template will be provisioned using an interactive user, so a delegated access token. And as such, I will automatically use the current user as the default owner of the provision team. I can provision channels. And as you can see here, for every single channel, I can configure the tabs, the team tabs that I want in the channel. Interesting part of the story, you can create new tabs, but you can also remove eventually out of the box tabs. So just to make an example, sorry about that, but most of the people don't like the wiki tab, which is always there by default in every single channel. So you can easily say, okay, in my general channel, get the wiki tab and just remove it. So we create a team based on the out-of-the-box template, but instantly we remove the wiki, and for example, we add another tab that I like more, for example, which is the OneNote Teams tab. We can write messages in the channel, so that when we provision the channel, we can also provide a welcome message or whatever else you like. And we can, of course, create multiple channels, which can eventually be not only public channels, but also private channels. So, for example, this one is marked with private equal true, and as such, it will be created as a private channel. But I can still configure custom tabs in that channel. And here, I'm configuring a web tab, which will go to bing.com just for the sake of making an example. And again, I remove the wiki one. Nothing against the wiki, but I simply don't like it, so, but don't get me wrong, okay? So that's my first sample. Let's try to apply this one onto a target tenant. So how can we do that when it is a matter of applying a tenant template instead of a site collection template? Well, we always need to connect using the Connect PnP Online and the target URL of the SharePoint Online environment. So even if right now in my template, I'm provisioning just Teams-related stuff, from a PnP PowerShell perspective, nowadays we still connect to the target SharePoint Online environment. I provide in my example the credentials through the Credential Manager, and once I will be connected under the cover of the Connect PnP Online, which I'm going to execute right now, we will also acquire an access token, a delegated access token for the user represented by the credentials that I have in the Credential Manager. And I will get an access token to consume the Microsoft Graph with the default set of permission scopes, which will include the permission scope that we need, clearly that we need to do the Teams provisioning. As such, if I execute the apply PnP tenant template, as you see, which is the commandlet I was talking about before, the apply PnP tenant template will apply a tenant level template to my target environment. I provide the path of my file, which is the one we just saw, and a couple of parameters for the team title and the team alias. So let's do that. And before executing this one, because I know that nobody trusts me, let me go to my teams.microsoft.com site in the tenant that I'm targeting. And as you can see here, I have overall 6 teams, but I don't have any team called PnP Team Demo SIG01A, because I am a developer and I need to provide a complex name to objects because I cannot make it simple, you know. So let me execute this commandlet, and let me switch back to Microsoft Teams, and you will see pretty soon that the new provision team will pop up. Here it is, with the general channel right now, and pretty soon with the private channel as well. So far it's quite interesting because you can, on behalf of a specific user, provision a team using the PnP provisioning engine. Let me go back and do some monitoring of what is happening. It is still working on it. It takes a while because we have some delays in the process to avoid getting throttling from one perspective. And from another point of view, we also need to wait for some of the resources to be fully ready before being able to use them. So now the provisioning is completed. I can come here, and as you can see, I have the general channel, I have the private channel. In the general channel, I don't have anymore the wiki, but I have a OneNote which has to be configured. We are working on making it possible to provide a predefined configuration for the OneNote, but it is not yet there. And I have the private channel where I have the tab, the web tab with Bing. So it was quite easy to do this kind of provisioning. Problem is that often we want to do that not on behalf of a specific user, but we want to do that, for example, with an app-only solution, with an app-only token running, for example, in an Azure function. So another option that we have in PnP is to use this way of working. So we can use the quite new initialized PnP PowerShell authentication commandlet that Erwin showed you a couple of weeks ago, I think. I can create on the fly an application, or better, register on the fly an application in Azure Active Directory, which I can use all lifelong once it is registered. And by registering an application and providing a name for my application, some settings for an X509 certificate that will be used to have the actual app-only authentication in Azure Active Directory and against SharePoint Online, I can then connect to my target environment, providing still the URL of SharePoint Online, so as before, but instead of using the credentials of a specific user, I will provide the client ID and the thumbprint of a certificate registered for app-only authentication for this app in this target tenant. And by doing that, and let me actually execute this code because it will take a while so that we can save some time. Let me configure the initial variables. And of course, this is a trivial password just for the sake of showing you something really simple. I have my commandlet, which will create in Azure Active Directory a new application. I will be prompted with the request for a set of credentials to authenticate against Azure Active Directory. Let me authenticate. And this step, of course, has to be done once in order to register the application. You don't need to do it every single time. And now we are waiting 60 seconds for the app to be ready, because in the meantime, on the Azure Active Directory side of the story, if I go here under app registration, if I'm fast enough, I can search for the application that we just registered. Here it is. We can already see that we have a client ID. If we go under the authentication section, certificate and secrets, we can see that we already have a certificate which has just been created. And under API permissions, we can see that we have some predefined permission scopes assigned to the app, but we are still waiting for the grant from an admin. And that's what we are waiting for in Visual Studio Code right here. And after 60 seconds, we will be prompted to grant those permissions to the app. Once we are done with the granting of the permissions, we can connect and we can apply PnP Tenant Template using, again, the .xml file and providing, and here it is the prompt for the grant. So let me select this user and let me grant those permissions to the application. And once I've done that, I can easily get the information about the client ID, as you can see, and the thumbprint of the certificates, which are those we just saw in Azure Active Directory. And I can connect to the target environment using those credentials. Right now, we can apply the template, but before applying the template, I want to show you what's inside the template. This is quite similar to the previous one, but now we are running in an app-only context. So first of all, in the team section, we need to have the security section, because we need to have at least one owner. So we have, in an app-only model, we have to provide at least one owner in the security element of the template. Moreover, we can't use the API, the Graph API, to create messages in the target channels, because that one is not supported in app-only. So we can't provide any welcome message or any other kind of stuff in the structure of the provisioned template. Aside from that, we can do whatever we like, and we need to keep into account that whenever we create a private channel, like here, for example, by default, the PnP Provisioning engine will assign the owners of the team as members, as default members of the private channel. Because again, in order to create a private channel in an app-only context, we need to explicitly select at least one member for that private channel, and we decided to use the owners of the team. Hope you like the choice we made. So if I go back, I can now execute the apply PnP Tenant Template. Hit F8. and the provisioning will start. If I go back to my team, here we'll see, and we see that the new one popped up. We can also see, this is quite nice, that we get a notification from a bot that the team provisioning app added our account to the team, which is quite nice because we know that we have been added to a team by an app-only running solution, which is, I think, quite smart. So it will take a while again, and we will get our provisioned team with all of the settings that I showed you in the XML provisioning template. Okay, here we are. So let me show you. We have the general channel again with the OneNote, and we have the private channel again with the Bing web tab. So hopefully so far so good. I don't know if there are any questions in the chat because I'm looking at my screen right now and not on at the chat one, but in case of any urgent question, Visa, just let me know and I can try to give an answer. Otherwise, I will keep on.
Pending questions have been pretty much answered already. There was a question related on, can you do unattended execution in Azure using this one? Answer is yes, that's precisely what this is for. So
exactly. But now the really interesting part, not saying that the previous one was not interesting, but the even more interesting part of the story is that using the latest capabilities that we introduced in the PnP provisioning engine, you can also provision site collection in SharePoint Online and Teams all together with a unique provisioning template, and you can eventually provision a site collection and a team, which will be connected one to the other. And leveraging the PnP provisioning engine, you can define the artifacts both in SharePoint Online and in the team within a unique provisioning template. So let me show you how you can do that, because I think it is really, really powerful. So let's start from the provisioning template, and let's close the session just to let you know it is usually not a good habit to mix different kind of connections with app-only and without app-only. So my suggestion is, if you're working in a demo environment like I'm doing right now, to eventually create a new PowerShell session or to clean the already created PowerShell session to avoid having conflicts between the cache of the connect PnP online commandlet in memory. In a common scenario, usually you don't have both of the authentication models within the same context and within the same session. You can be app-only, you can be delegated. So, but right now I'm playing multiple demos within the same context, so I need to create a new instance of PowerShell. Now, let me show you the last template. In this template, I have still some input parameters, the team title and alias, but I also have a company name, which I will use later on. And I have a set of provisioning templates, a sequence, and a team section. In the sequence, we create a site collection of type modern team site. So it will be a modern team site with a backing Office 365 group or Microsoft 365 group. And inside the settings of this site collection, I declare that I want to teamify that site collection. So I want to create the team and not only the backing Microsoft 365 group. Moreover, because I'm teamifying the site collection, I want also to hide the teamify message. So I don't want to see in the lower left corner of my website the message, why not creating a team for the site? Because I'm already creating a team for that site. Interesting part of this XML section is the provisioning ID. With this attribute, I can give a unique ID to my set collection within the provisioning template. And this will become really helpful in a matter of few seconds from now. When I create this set collection, I want to apply a provisioning template to that set collection with a reference to a specific template called the projects template, which is defined right here in the template section. Here it is, provisioning template with ID project template. This is a very simple template just for the sake of showing you something. So I define 4 custom site level fields. I define a custom content type which will use those fields, and I define a custom library which will be called company name -projects, and in there I'm just using the content type that I created before. So just a document library with a custom content type, nothing more than that. But we also have a team section. So let me close this one and let's open the team section. Here we want to provision some settings on a team, which is actually an already existing team, the one that we created when we teamified the previous set collection. And just to let you know, the provisioning engine will first of all provision the set collection, and secondly, go through all of the team settings. So you can create the sequences first, because that will happen in the provisioning engine, and then you can apply the template. Sorry, you can apply the team related section. Here I say this team targets a group which is already existing, and the group is the one with the sequence site group ID of team site 01, which was the site ID that we defined in the sequence. So this information, provisioning ID. So I'm basically saying that this team template will apply to the team that we created when we teamified the previous set collection. So whatever I will define in this team provisioning definition will be applied to that team. And again, here I'm creating a few tabs in the general channel, including, just for the sake of completeness, a SharePoint document library team tab, which will target my custom document library that I just created. And here again, I can use the sequence site URL, ID of my site, so that I can say, give me the projects library in the site URL that we just provisioned. So quite powerful, I think. So let me open the last PowerShell script. Let me connect to my target environment. This one will be executed with a delegated access token, because I'm also creating messages and other stuff which requires a delegated access token. And now I will apply this tenant level template. Again, if I go back here, we'll see our new team popping up. It will take longer than before, because first of all, we need to create the set collection. We need to teamify that one. So it will take a few more seconds compared with the previous demos. But at the very end, we will have a new team here. We will have a set collection with a custom library defined in the, and here it is, and defined in its information architecture. And we will have the team fully connected to the set collection that we provisioned. So if I already go here, I can see that maybe the provisioning is still running. Yes, actually the provisioning is still running for the site collection, so better to wait. The site collection is still under provisioning. I'm creating the list instances, the content types, and all the other stuff. And this will be, by the way, the name of the set collection, so I can try to be smart and open the set collection as soon as it will be ready, so that we can save some time. Okay, now we are provisioning the teams part of the story. So in the meantime, I can go here and say PS is that site, and I can go to this site. And we can see that here we have the PnP projects document library, in which we have our custom project document and our custom stuff. If I go back, in a matter of few seconds, the provisioning of the team will be completed. Oops, of course, there is the demo effect. Wonderful. Okay, let's see what happened. But we have the general channel, and we have the PnP projects tabs where we are targeting the document library. We have the private channel, and it failed to create the web tab targeting Bing. I will dig into it. Maybe it's a bug. And in that, if that will be the case, we will fix it. But aside from the small issue we had right now, I think it is quite powerful that you can provision a site collection together with a team. They will be connected, and you can do you can define the information architecture of the site collection as well as the structure of the team within a unique provisioning template. I think that's all for me. It was a 20-minute demo almost, so I tried to do my best to squeeze it in the time ahead. If there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Or
yeah, I think thank you, Paolo. Awesome demo. I think it's really, really great, and really shows the power of the tenant templates as well. That it's not just about SharePoint; it's about the whole platform as such, and that's what it targeted for us.